There we go. Before I move on to new stuff, I wanted to see if anybody had anything for me to take a look at. I can share your screen if you've got it on your screen, or if you have a particular question that I can help you with to get you to complete your wall sections and roof details. And even if there are questions on what you have questions on what I'm expecting, whatever, I will field those now and kind of get a sense of where everybody's at with their projects.
I had a question, or more or less just maybe a request, was potentially like a checklist for what we're looking to make sure we have. I know that you have it on that your sheet that you were just showing.
Yep.
But for like each specific like elevation or details, would there be a checklist that we would need to make sure we have everything?
Well, there is a
Or is that
checklist that I've used in the past, but I want to see if it's applicable now, because I've scoped the project down a little bit. So that's the only thing that I want to be careful of if we use this checklist. But what we could use the checklist for is to understand the types of callouts and information that should be on the views, if that is what you're asking for.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. So in the 165 folder, and I'll just make sure that, well, I think you can all get to this because I've got it in the Google Drive. In the 165 folder under assignments and handouts, I'm going to be referencing a lot of stuff in this file anyway. This living codes, kitchens, and baths is where I kept all of the Josephine project stuff, because that's where we would begin laying out the actual living space of the Josephine at this point, once we start talking about kitchens and baths, which is what you're going to start with today. And then we have in here the final project requirements. And I'm assuming this is a newer version right here, so let's take a look at that. So the parts of it you're going to have to ignore, though, is well, let me see. I guess not, because you're all are submitting a floor plan of just the living space of the Josephine, not including the mudroom or the garage, because we just didn't have room for it. You all have already done the foundation plan and the callouts, so you can put a check next to that. You have you're going to be giving elevations, and then instead of a full building section, you're just going to be giving me that wall section with the roof detail. So on the checklist too, I included a section on code compliance, which we'll talk about today. So when you're laying out your rooms and your spaces, you want to be checking to make sure that your rooms and spaces are meeting the minimum room size requirements that we'll go over again today. And then based on what you do for kitchen layout and bathroom layout, you also want to make sure your clearances are meeting the code requirements. So this is just like a way of going through the checklist and verifying, did I design my floor plan so it actually meets code? Or, so for instance, what if you designed a bedroom that was only 6 feet wide, but it was 12 feet long? Would that meet code?
No, it needs to be 7 feet.
Right. So like just making sure you're checking those things. So this is a good checklist to make sure as you're going through that you're designing things the way you're supposed to be. This gives you an idea of the kinds of callouts that you should have for the first floor plan. And let me just run through there. All walls are dimensioned. That makes sense. I think I already provided those for you on the plan, because the overall exterior walls are not moving. You're only moving your interior partitions. So you're going to have to tell me where you placed your interior partitions, and those would be dimensioned to the center of the walls. You probably want to make sure you definitely want to make sure you're labeling your rooms for me. What rooms have you created? Just simple names like bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, living, dining area. Unless you make a dining room, you call it a dining area if it's part of another room. All your doors and windows should be tagged, because that's going to be going along with your door and window schedule you're going to be filling out. So the door and window schedule that you have in your lesson plan worksheet, go ahead and assign a letter to your windows and a number to every door. Your letter to your windows can be repeated. So if you have 6 windows that are exactly the same type, you can give them all assigned letter A and come up with a quantity. However, with doors, you want to give each door its own number and let me know what kind of door that is. And again, this is only required in the main living space of the Josephine. General notes indicating interior door locations within walls. And I've got an example of that in the 11 by 17 set of plans I gave you all in the beginning of the semester. I think there's a note that says something along the lines of all interior doors shall be placed 6 inches from hinge side or centered on the wall, unless noted otherwise. And that way the doors will be located or framed. And it would be the builder's interpretation of that, but usually you can tell whether or not the door wants to be close to a wall, and giving 6 inches gives plenty of room for the framing and the trim around the door. Your cutting plane line with the sheet number and section location. So in your floor plan, just show a cutting plane line through one of the walls and indicate on the sheet that you have that you're going to have a sketch of your wall and your roof detail. Just give that sketch sheet number and reference it in your floor plan so that we can see where is that section being cut. There's probably a number of places you can put that cutting plane line, but it's just drawing coordination to show us where is that section. And then the framing information for ceiling framing should be noted above you. So what are you using for ceiling framing above you that's going to be able to span whatever distance that you have based on where your walls get placed on that first floor. And then this foundation plan, you should check all this off. You're all done. You guys did this already. Here's an example of what should be on the elevation annotation. So you should see on all 4 elevations. I'm not requiring them to be these different scales anymore. I think I gave you 2 1/4 inch and 2/8 of an inch ones anyway because of their size. But what you're going to do is match the windows you've placed in your floor plan to the elevations by drawing the windows in the elevations and the doors in the elevations to match. And then you can call out your finishes here. Roof pitch, I think, has already been called out. And then this is an example of what you would call out in your section. So in your wall section, this is a checklist. So remember, this checklist was the original project, the full scope of the project. I obviously canned some of this and pared it down a little bit for you all, but this is still a pretty good checklist to be working from to see if not all of these items will apply to you, but you can at least work through them and say, oh, do I have this called out? Do I have this information on that plan or that elevation? And it can be used to kind of give you some guidance. So I can make this available on the portal page and just put it, I guess I'll put it in the same place that I've been putting all the videos and for these remote learning lessons, so that way it's all right there, if that would be helpful.
Thanks.
Okay. But keep in mind that this is just your checklist to give you a rough idea of what should be on those plans to keep you from forgetting anything. This is not your criteria anymore. I gave you that criteria in the lesson plan. So just want to make sure there's no confusion with that if I do that. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments like that I can help with? Keep the emails coming with your progress on your drawings. Like Sarah, for instance, I just saw your section of your wall detail you sent me today, and it looks great. It's exactly what you want for callouts, and it looks nice and neat, and I can read it. So it looks like it's to scale, so that works for me. If any of you have some progress sketches like that, like Scylla, I know you've been giving me some things, but feel free to do that, even whether it's electronic or hand-drawn. what Scylla and Sarah have been doing, and David Richter, for that matter, has been taking pictures and just emailing them to me. And sometimes I email back with red lines, and sometimes I email back and say, no, that's it, you got it. So that kind of feedback is going to help you along. And I like to see where you all are at too. So if you have anything to show me, I encourage you to send it to me. All right, well, if I don't have any other questions on the older stuff, I'm going to go right into the kitchens and baths. Okay. All right. What I want you to be able to take away from today is an understanding of the spaces that are the ones that tend to take up the most room and also have the most restrictive layout information for you to have to follow within the code books. So we know from looking at the IRC, and I actually have, this is the one that I've given you guys, I think, as a reference before. Does everybody recognize this document? I'll also put this on the same location so you can grab it from there in case you lost yours and misplaced it. But it's kind of like a summary of the living codes requirements from the IRC. But I also like to make sure I'm referencing the actual current residential code. So I'm just going to remind you of the things that are going to apply to this part of the lesson, which is you're all ready now to start to lay out that floor plan. It's not going to be a whole lot of walls and spaces. I asked for at least one bedroom, a kitchen, a bathroom, and then you can do what you want with the remaining space. Some people might want a separate dining room. Some people might want an open living, dining concept. That's up to you. But those things that I just listed, at least one bedroom, one bath, a kitchen, and then a living space, we'll call it, are the requirements for this Josephine house. If you want to add a second bedroom, that's fine. But whatever you choose to do, you just have to make sure you're meeting the code requirements for the spaces. So the most restrictive spaces are the toilet rooms and the kitchen. Well, the kitchen, when you start to lay out all the things that aren't not necessarily required in a kitchen, but that people tend to expect to have. So in the minimum square footage of the rooms, you have 70 square feet, 7 feet in one direction is a requirement. And you have usually a 7-foot ceiling height, but there is some leeway there if you have a beam or whatever in that space, or you know, there's some variations, or what do you call it, exceptions to that rule, but usually shoot for a 7-foot ceiling height. We've got plenty of space for ceiling in the Josephine. Sanitation, toilet facilities. Every toilet facility needs a water closet, a lavatory, and a bathtub or a shower. So if we do a water closet, which is a toilet, lavatory, those two are must-haves. The bathtub or shower will depend on really like the kind of use and the layout of the bathroom. So I have here an example of 2 bathrooms, and we're going to check to see if the clearances are right. And you can see that the square footage of the bathroom, I'm going to tell you now that it can't get less than about 40 square feet based off of the clearance rules that we're going to take a look at a little bit more closely. So this is a good way to lay out a bathroom, because the tub itself is defining the width of the bathroom, and it's using the least amount of wasted space here. So we've got 60 inches that we would need for a typical size bathtub is 30 inches wide by 60 inches long, or 2 feet 6 inches by 5 feet. So this inside to inside dimension for the bathroom would be 5 feet wide. And then when we look at the spacing of the plumbing fixtures, notice that all the plumbing fixtures I have here are on the same wall. We call that a wet wall. And that wall is a 2x6 rather than a 2x4, because the 2x6 can accommodate the 4-inch pipe that needs to be associated with the toilet. The toilet has a stack that's a 4-inch diameter pipe that prevents the harmful gases, the ether basically, from your plumbing waste pipe, and it directs it out through the roof and outside of the house, so it's not ventilating inside the house. So that stack pipe has to be 4 inches in diameter, and therefore it will not fit in a normal sized 4.5 inch, a 3.5 inch 2x4 wall. So that's one way to bury the stack pipe, is to put it in a 6-inch wall. Or you can create, if you do have only a 4-inch wall to work with, you can create a little bump out and put the stack pipe in there. But this becomes the wet wall also, because this shower, because usually this is a tub and shower unit, the piping has to come in through the wall here because it's going up through the wall and coming out the shower head. And then in the sink, this piping can come through the wall if you have a wall-mounted faucet or plumbing fixture. But in this scenario that you're looking at here, this is a vanity sink with a what do you call it? A top mount vanity sink itself with the fixtures. So this, most likely the plumbing is coming up through the floor and not through the wall. But having a 6-inch, 5.5 inch wall, rather, 2x6 wall, also makes it a lot easier to maintain the plumbing if you have to get to it and fix it. There's more room in there. You also never want to put plumbing, like for the shower, in your exterior wall. For obvious reasons, if we put that 3/4 of an inch diameter plumbing in the exterior wall, it will certainly fit there. But now I'm going to have a really hard time getting my insulation around it and keeping it from freezing in the winter in Maine. So never show your this side of your tub up against an exterior wall. So when we look at the way the plumbing fixtures are arranged, you have 30 inches for the tub. We have to have 30 inches of clear space for the toilet, because the toilet needs 15 inches from the center to whatever fixture or wall that it's next to. That's the minimum. It's 18 inches for an ADA compliant toilet, so we end up with 36 inches for an ADA compliant. And then I've got a vanity in here, because if it's a small bathroom like this, you probably want a little bit of place to put some storage. So putting a vanity in here makes sense. This bathroom could get a lot smaller if I put like a pedestal sink in here or something like that. But this vanity is 30 inches or 36 inches wide. So when we add up those dimensions, we end up with 8 feet in this direction and 5 feet in that one, adding up to 40 feet. And everything that you're seeing here meets the clearance requirements for the plumbing fixtures. So is everybody following me so far?
Yep.
All right, so here are our plumbing fixture clearances, and I have the pretty pictures of these in the document that is a PDF that I gave you all, and I'll make sure I put on this lessons lecture. But this tells you what you need for space. By the way, a shower that's only 30 inches wide is really, really, really tight. Basically, stand in your doorway at if you have a residential door, it's probably 30 inches wide. Stand right inside of your doorway and try to, with your elbows out, see if you can, move around, and you'll see how restrictive a 30-inch shower would be. But that's the smallest of shower types you can add. And then it tells you need 24 inches of clearance to the front of the opening. If you're going into the shower this way, then you need 24 inches of clearance here. Most showers, however, are not like standalone like this. Most showers will need to have some kind of wall where they're built in. It's called a 3-wall shower, or I think it's called 3-wall. And so the framing is built around it, and then the shower is placed inside of that framed area. This shows you 21 inches of clearance in front of the toilet, how far the toilet needs to be from the wall, from its center, 21 inches of clearance in front of a sink, and so on. So these clearance areas here can overlap each other, but if we go back to the Revit file, this gives you another example of another layout of a bathroom that would work. Because it has, in this case though, we have the toilet, we have the lavatory, and we have a stand-up shower, but we still end up with about 40 square feet, because I can't really put the sink here across from the shower, I might be able to get this in here where the sink is right here, and then the swing doors here, but it's only going to take about, it's still going to be around 40 square feet when all is said and done. And these show you those clearances that we need to have in front of those spaces in order to approach them. So this is what I mean about a shower having 3 walls around it. This is more often the case. And then the either the tile or the surround shower unit is placed on top of the base shower unit and installed within the framed walls. So in this scenario, I would say that you would probably end up with a little wall here if you didn't want to have to add it into the bathroom. Because does everybody see do you all see a problem with where my toilet is?
It looks like it's on the exterior wall.
Exactly. So that's something you want to start watching for and thinking about as designers. This is okay to do because the plumbing from for the toilet is just cold water, so that's coming from the floor. But don't forget about the stack pipe. That's the problem. That's the thing that takes up all the room. So let me just set this at 1 foot, or maybe at like 8 inches. So inside of this little cavity right here, we could have the stack pipe. That stack pipe is allowed to be up to 2 feet away from the toilet, but that would be one of the ways we could handle it, especially if this was a closet on the other side. Let's imagine that there's a bedroom on the other side of this and this is a closet. That would be a great place to put that and hide that stack pipe so it's not showing in the bathroom. But you just all have to recognize that that stack pipe needs to be there somewhere. And we know we can't put it in this exterior wall because if we did that, we'd have a really, really cold spot. We don't have to worry about that stack pipe freezing because there's no water going through it, but we do have to worry about a lot of conductive cold coming in the winter, and so you just wouldn't want to do that. So that stack pipe could be located here and that would work. Okay. So that's bathrooms. There's all kinds of different bathroom configurations. I think your book has a whole chapter on the kitchen and bathrooms that you should definitely take a look at. That has different configurations and layouts that are really good to work from because it gives you a good idea of how much space things need. And the different ways you can configure a bathroom for either for 2 people, or if it's the family bathroom, or if it's going to be multiple users that are like siblings, let's say, or guests, how you can compartmentalize that bathroom and make it a little bit more functional for multiple people and still have privacy. So does anybody have any questions about the bathroom? So you need to either do, you know, something that includes a tub, a toilet, and a sink, or a shower, toilet, and a sink in your Josephine house. You've got to configure it so that it meets these clearance requirements. I could really configure these a million different ways, but you can see that if you want to make the bathroom as small as possible, because this isn't a very big house, then you really are restricted to what's left over for space once you make sure that each plumbing fixture has its clearance it's supposed to have.
How big or small does I guess water closet that doesn't have a bath or a shower?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So if you were to break that down, and let's pretend we had a powder room, let's just create a powder room off of this wall here. I'll add another wall. Basically, your powder room here needs to be the width of 36 inches in this case, because you've got a toilet that needs the 36 inches, because if you have 2 walls instead of a wall and a plumbing fixture, the distance from the toilet to the 2 walls needs to be 36 inches. Let me just set these dimensions in the right place. So that should be 36 inches. We know that we have to have at least 36 inches wide. Okay, now let's take this clearance here this is the right size, and we're going to copy it from the end of the toilet here to the end of this toilet. We need to have 21 inches in front of that toilet. And then we also need, let's put in another wall here. We'll figure out where that wall is supposed to go. We also need a sink. So let's copy this sink. And we can even make it a pedestal sink. So a pedestal sink would look more or less like this. We just wouldn't see any vanity around it. Everybody knows what I mean when I say pedestal sink, right? I'm assuming. And then
No,
we
not
need,
really.
not really? Okay, let me look it up so you can see what that looks like. I think I misspelled pedestal sink, but there, that's a pedestal sink right there. So it's just, it sits on a pedestal.
Oh, I thought you said pedal sink.
Yeah. It sits on like a
Okay.
column, right? And it has no storage. And it's, see, because oftentimes in residential, we don't usually wall mount sinks. There are some. I lived in some apartments that had wall mounted sinks. But the pedestal will hide plumbing if it's coming up from the floor, and it's also just a look. So another version too would be a wall mounted sink that you could show, but we're just pretending we're gonna make this powder room as small as possible because we wanna see how small we can make it. So then we would take our clearance here. Let's copy that. That's the sink clearance. And this sink clearance, whoops, I'm using AutoCAD AutoCAD callouts here. I'm gonna rotate it with the button instead. And so let's move that so that the middle of that is right in front of the sink. So it's okay for those things to overlap so they can actually get this much closer. I can overlap all of that stuff. I want to get rid of that. So I could bring this in as close as that, it looks like, and then I could put a door on the side and have it swing out. So the size of that space right there is pretty small, but it would work as a tiny little powder room. It's 18 square feet. So that's how you would kind of go about building, you know, all right, what's the smallest powder room I can make? Now, if you wanted to add a little bit of storage and you added a little linen closet or made this a vanity sink or whatever, then we might widen it a little bit or make a little bit more distance between the toilet and the sink so that the door could swing in or whatever. But you can see that that's a pretty small little powder room. We could have that maybe even fit underneath a set of stairs or something. So you can make them awfully tight. As long as you're meeting those clearances, okay?
Can you remind me the difference, architecturally speaking, between a water closet and a lavatory?
The water closet is the toilet and the lavatory is the sink. So
The lavatory is only the sink?
yep.
Oh, okay.
A lot of times though, you'll hear people refer to the entire room as the lavatory. Or they'll refer to the entire room as the water closet. But the reason it's called, the water closet is just a nicer term for a toilet. And architects use that for some reason. I mean, you can call it a toilet room, or a nice way of putting this room is a powder room too. But this is really a half bath. It's got the toilet and the sink, or you can say toilet and lavatory, or water closet and lavatory. So the difference between, and why this is called a lavatory and not a sink technically, is a lavatory is for grooming and a sink is for sanitation. And those are the differences. So you hear, you know, you can definitely call the kitchen sink a sink, mop sink because it's for sanitation, utility sink is for sanitation, but we often call this a sink, but it really should be called a lavatory instead because of its purpose. So it's going to be called lavatory in architectural plans. And so you have to just understand the difference when somebody's using the word lavatory. What is why is that different than sink, you know?
Okay, cool.
Yep. All right, so any other questions about the bathroom? I can also give you some design strategies for the Josephine, based off of if you're gonna do a 2-bedroom, try to place the bathroom between the 2 bedrooms when you can, because having a bathroom, you know, really far away from the bedrooms doesn't make a lot of sense. So almost think about the bathroom as being part of the layout for the Josephine bedrooms. And so if I minimize this, I think one of these things has, that's the minimum room. Yeah, I've got an example of a layout here of the Josephine project, which is a little different now because we changed the stair configuration, because now we have a mudroom going out here. But do you see how the bathroom relationship between the 2 bedrooms, it's centrally located, and we have this kind of private hallway that makes this bedroom and bathroom area feel like it's not part of the public living and entertaining space. Doing this as well buffers these 2 rooms too. And then designing the closets around the bathroom also buffers your noise from the bathroom into the bedrooms and creates like noise insulation between the 2. And it's also just a great place to stick these closets and linen closet. They're all conveniently located. The master bedroom has a slightly larger closet to be shared. And then the second bedroom has a normal size closet and then a little linen closet for the bathroom. And so those closets are going to be useful, and they're in great places. Okay, so this gives you an idea of how you can arrange it so you end up with these nice square rooms that are going to be easy to furnish, and you've got your storage kind of built into the design. If you're doing just a single bedroom, then this bedroom goes away, and you can think about how you would use that space if you're going to end up with a kind of a similar configuration. And then this bedroom could get a little bit bigger, and maybe you have like a sitting area or just a, you know, chaise lounge with some books, or this could be a mud room. There could be all kinds of ways that you could use that space in place of a bedroom. I did not include a chimney in your plan, so you don't have to worry about that. And then, like I said, this stairwell is just a little bit different. I think it's more L-shaped. It's sticking out equally on both sides, and this is open on this side to that mudroom area. So I decided that was a good place for a kitchen, but another way to look at it is you could kind of flip this and say that would be a great spot for a bathroom. And then this would be a great spot for a bedroom, and this whole side could be open to kitchen and living, depending on where you decide to put this wall, okay? All right, so does that give you enough information to go on for the bathrooms anyway? Any other questions about the bathroom? Okay. So let me minimize this and get to the other things I wanted to get to here. So let's get back to those dwelling codes that I had, which were under here. And then we were still looking at the IRC. I think that's about it though, because kitchen doesn't have a lot of information about clearances, because the kitchen, it just has to have a sink, and I think it needs to be about 50 square feet. So we're not going to use this to lay out your kitchen. We're going to use another document that I have that's also in the same place. And again, I'll load that up in the same location for all of the reference material that you want for this particular lesson. But I have this good article that's it's not a code requirement, but it's definitely got some good suggestions on the amount of space a kitchen should have, and where the storage should be, where some countertops should be, how much room there should be around an appliance, what's the what's a good size for what's called the work triangle in the kitchen. So it has all of that in this article. And so it's a good article to kind of read through and check to see if you're laying out your kitchen with these pretty common rules as that apply to, I guess, good functioning and well laid out kitchens. So it talks about storage and what's cabinet, what are the terms, like what does cabinet frontage mean and things like that. Just kind of goes through that and tells you some real basic information about kitchens, but some terminology too that you may not be clear on, or what you know, what does that mean? So I would encourage you to read this article and use it as a reference. And that's what I'm going to use as a reference right now. So next to this, I've got a kitchen layout, and this type of kitchen would be referred to as an L-shaped kitchen with an island. And L-shaped kitchens are really popular right now because of the open concept that we have in our society. We've really evolved quite a bit from compartmentalizing our spaces to starting to create much more open functional spaces that give us multiple uses. Sorry, I'm looking for one particular thing while I'm talking. So here's our common kitchen layouts. And some of you are in my interior design class, so you will recognize this. I use the same document because it works just fine. These are your common kitchen layouts: L-shaped with the island, galley, which is a straight kitchen. It's usually designed between two rooms that you want the kitchen next to, like the living and the dining room. U-shaped kitchen. And then this is a straight kitchen, and usually though with a straight kitchen, you almost always see an island along with it too. And then this is another variation on the U-shaped kitchen, where you have U-shape, but the one side of it, instead of being a wall that blocks your view, ends up being a peninsula, and it invites people to visit with someone using the kitchen without them encroaching on that kitchen space. So the L-shaped and the straight are definitely open concept kitchen types. This is a closed concept kitchen type, and it is really restrictive when you consider trying to get through here. This is almost going to be treated a little bit like a hallway, unless you've got other means of getting to dining and kitchen and living. You've got some traffic issues in this kitchen. And then a U-shaped kitchen is one way in and one way out, so you've got to make it wide enough so that you can get around. But each one of these kitchen layouts is suitable depending on the type of room you have to place your kitchen in your floor plan. So that's why there are these 4 configurations basically that you can categorize a kitchen layout into. So I've done a L-shaped kitchen here just to show you some things. So the first thing we'll look at is the work triangle. Work triangle is always a connection between the range, the sink, and the refrigerator. So you place a point right at the center of each one of those things, and then draw a hidden line between them, and then add up the lengths of the legs of that triangle. And what you're looking for, according to that article I talked about, is you really don't want the lengths of that triangle to add up to less than 12 feet or greater than 22 feet. So less than 12 feet means you have a really, really, really small, tight kitchen, maybe more like a kitchenette. And then 22 feet means you have a really inefficient distance between your appliances and plumbing fixtures, where you're taking a lot of extra steps to get to those things. So kitchens are interesting to design because there are definitely kitchens that function better than others once someone, based on how somebody has designed it. So this particular kitchen, if we look at it in a 3D view, we have base cabinets here. Those are all called base cabinets. And then we have your countertop as a separate install above it. We have upper cabinets that are wall hung. And then this piece back here is called a backsplash. And then this is a wall-mounted range hood that's over the range. Usually a range, well, not usually, by code, the range needs to have either a range hood or some kind of downdraft system that ventilates that cooking apparatus. And then this is what an island really looks like. Usually an island has some kind of base cabinet underneath it, and then we extend the island on one side to allow for seating on that side. And what this island is also doing, it's really doing three things. It's creating an additional entertainment space. It's also making a clear rule, basically, of where we want people that are using kitchen to be and where we want people that we're entertaining to be. They know their place, and it gives us extra countertop space to work on. So islands are really popular for those reasons. In this particular kitchen, I have a dishwasher. We see the dishwasher is located next to the sink. And the sink has lots of what we call layoff space on either side. You usually want at least 24 to 18 inches on both sides of the sink, especially if you don't have a dishwasher, because then we need some kind of place to put dirty dishes and then some place to put our clean dishes to dry. The stove should always have at least 9 to 18 inches, 18 to 24 preferred on both sides. In this scenario, I have, I think, 30 inches on one side and 18 inches on the other. And that's really important around a stove because of the layoff space. You know, you're pulling a big roasted chicken out of the oven, you've got to have a place to put it down. And so you don't want to be precariously like leaning it on some corner of something that might fall over and burn yourself or others. So this layoff space is really important around these particular fixtures. Also, the refrigerator should have layoff space that's at least 24 inches on one side, and usually you want it on the side that the handle is on. So this layout is to kind of show you how much room you need around each one of those important fixtures, and a typical layout that we might see of a kitchen. This is very common, obviously, too, that put the sink right in front of the window. So kitchens have less code requirements, but more thought needs to maybe be put into how is it going to function. And what I'm really expecting for this lesson is not necessarily every detail in this kitchen, but a basic layout that shows the you know, where the countertop is going to be and where these three fixtures are going to be. Those are the most important things. So if I don't see any of these, whoops, I hid too many categories there. If I don't see any of these base cabinets, for instance, or let's see, let me get rid of these base cabinets. If I don't see any of those things and they're hidden, that's fine with me. I need to see just where are you expecting your cabinets to go. This tells me I know that you've got cabinets underneath here. And then where are these three most important pieces in a refrigerator, in a kitchen going? The stove, the sink, and the refrigerator. Okay. So my suggestion is you read that article. You think about where the kitchen could go in the Josephine plan, and you see if you can fit some good cabinet frontage dimensions in that plan. So if we include cabinet frontage, is the measurement that we have from the front of the cabinet here to the end of the cabinet is 126 inches in this case, and we have 96. And then the base cabinets here in the island add up to 72 inches. All of those numbers that we just looked at are all divisible by 3 inches. And that's another thing that you want to keep in mind when you are designing the layout for your kitchen is base cabinets come in 3-inch increments. The smallest, narrowest cabinet is 9 inches wide, and then it keeps going up every 3 inches until about 48 inches wide, unless you get into custom cabinetry. So this is your widest base cabinet unit, would be a sink unit right here. It's 48 inches wide. And when we see it in 3D, it would hold like, you know, I don't know what you guys put on your sinks, but I always have all my cleaning stuff under there. But that's a good size cabinet to store all that stuff underneath there. And then the function of the cabinet itself, I don't really care about for this assignment. It's more that I want to see what you have as an idea for where things are going to fit and plan. Okay?
I know it's kind of an outdated style, but I always get a kick out of the like peninsula, like bar that you could eat at that had cabinets hung from the ceiling over
Oh
it.
yes, I grew up with one of those too, and there is something about it that's got a nostalgic to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love those.
I feel like they don't. I know why they don't work anymore. It's because people really, that really does block your vision. And the whole point of having the peninsula or the island is to be able to see into the other spaces. But I can picture like the new old posts, and then there's the cabinets, so you can either open on one side or the other. But there, you always have to bend down to see the person in the kitchen. Yeah, you have to crouch. So again, with the kitchen, let me ask you the same question you asked with the bathroom. Do you feel like you have enough to go on to understand what I'm looking for? I'm really only looking, I only am interested in what you come up with in a plan. We're not going to be doing elevations of the kitchen. That's another whole class. Kitchen design and layout you can do in the interior design class. It's a great class. But for this class and for this purpose, we're going to really do a very basic approach to a kitchen layout. And I'd like you to pick one of the 3 layouts that we have, or similar to one of those 3 layouts, and figure out something that will work for your Josephine project and give you the kind of interaction between the spaces that you would like. Okay? All right, the last thing I want to show you is another tool that you can have, and I'll also make sure this is available. And this is called a space analysis tool. And in the Josephine project, we really only have these spaces right here that I've said are required spaces within the project, right? 1 bedroom, 1 bath, either full or 3/4. 1 kitchen, and then I don't care really what else what you do with that rest of that space. It could be living, dining, den, whatever, or another bedroom. Included in this is you do want to think about some storage that usually gets listed as separate requests, that you try to make sure that you get storage in the bedroom. You're trying to make sure that you get storage around the bath. You definitely build in storage in the kitchen with your cabinets and maybe a pantry. And then you probably want to think about some kind of storage that you can build in to the layout for your entry. Now, you have been given a mudroom entry that you don't have included in the floor plan that you're working with, but you know that it's part of the floor plan. So some storage and entry closets could go in there. But see, while you're designing, see if you can figure out how to get some bedroom closets in your layout. See if you can try to fit a linen closet in or near or around the bathroom. And then it's awfully nice to get some pantry storage in your kitchen if you have the means to be able to do that. So be looking for those opportunities. Those are things that don't necessarily have to be included in your plans. A lot of people think you have to have a closet in a bedroom to meet code requirements. That's absolutely not true. You only need to have 70 square feet, and you must have an egress window, and that's it. So but most people expect closets in their bedrooms rather. Yes, they usually expect closets in their bedrooms. So it's nice to try to design the closet in the bedroom. And for a single person, like a child especially, this closet should be 3 feet wide at minimum. That's the accessible side, by 2 feet deep at minimum. That would be your smallest closet. For one person, okay? One person who's not a clothes horse, okay? So this space analysis also does this breaking down in a different way, where you list the rooms that you want in your space over here, and then you decide, is it a public or a private space? And this also kind of sets up adjacencies to some rooms too. Is it when you notice oh, these are all supposed to be kind of private spaces that I don't want my guests like traipsing through, then you realize you should probably group those rooms together, and then these rooms need to be grouped together. And then I've given you some sizes here for the smallest minimum code requirements to what is considered small but still above code, and then what's average size and what's large. And then what should that bedroom be adjacent to? A bedroom should always be adjacent to a bathroom, like across the hall or next to it or something like that. And then if we look at bathroom, the family bathroom, they should be next to the bedrooms, but it shouldn't be too far away from your living room either, unless we decide to put in a half bath. Linen closets, I would give you approximate sizes. Bed closets, laundry, we have in the basement in this project, and then your living room sizes, kitchen, dining room area, and what it should be adjacent to. So this is a good like little spreadsheet to work through when you're thinking about your spaces and how you want them to interact with each other. Okay?
Meredith, we're also worried about bearing loads for that roof or the ceiling and roof, correct?
Well, you are going to probably have walls that will be located that will help bear the load of those ceiling joists because of the way that the Josephine is laid out. If we look at our first floor plan for the Josephine, I suspect most of you are going to be putting a wall here or here that will be more or less continuous. And so that means your distance that you're traveling for your ceiling joists have to travel would be the distance between wherever you decide to put those walls. This is where we kind of get into gray area because I don't know how you're going to lay out your plans. And there's a lot of ways that you could do it that may end up putting these walls in a spot where it's going to be a lot harder for a regular nominal ceiling joist to span that distance. But another way that this whole thing could be handled is there could be roof trusses for this that would then the bottom cord would be your ceiling joists. So I guess keep that in mind while you're laying out your spaces. Like this is one suggestion that would work, right? There's 2 bedrooms and a bath. And then I just haven't designed the kitchen, but you can tell by this layout, the living space is going to be kind of small. So there's probably a few other configurations that can be made that might make this space here a little bit larger. So yes, you want to be mindful of it and be careful. Like if you decide to put your partition walls in this direction, it's going to be a bit more challenging because the way that the roof is, let's look at the 3D view of the Josephine here. Oops. There we go, get to my 3D view here. The ceiling joists, like the floor joists, are probably going that way because we've got a ridge right here, right? Because this isn't perfectly square. So similar to our top of concrete view of our framing that we have, our framing's going this way, most likely our ceiling framing is going to be going the same direction. So where you end up putting this partition wall on that first floor is going to determine the actual span between, the span that the ceiling joists have to bear. Does that make sense?
Is the floor framing supposed to go in the same direction as the roof rafters?
Well, in this case, because it's a hip roof, we have the center part of the roof is going to be a regular rafter run, but then we start getting into hip and valley rafters, where on this side, we're going to have some hip rafters that are going this way, and then we're going to have hip rafters going this way, and then this way and this way. So the rafters are kind of going in all different directions, but right in the center, it's going to be framed just like a regular gable roof, right where that ridge is. So we look at the 3D view, right here where this ridge is, the rafters that fall inside of that are going to look just like a gable framed roof. But here we'd end up with, these would be called your ridge or your hip rafter. And it's a compound angle that's being framed from where the corner of the roof overhang would be all the way up to that center ridge board. And then in here, your rafters would be cut at different lengths to fill in this space, right? So when you ask which direction the rafters are going in, because there's a, I would say they're more strongly going this way, but really the rafters are bearing down on all four walls the same. So this
roof that we're looking at on the Revit is the type of roof we're supposed to be choosing.
Well, it's the type of roof I gave you that if you're working with the hand drawings, this is the type of roof that it is in the elevations.
And then in terms of incorporating this in our drawings, I know we have to do the cornice section, right?
Yep.
But do we also have to do a half? Do we have to do any other drawings of the roof? Or is it just a call out on the plan?
No, just, so you're basically cutting through the roof right here at this cornice.
Yep.
And it would look the same in any direction. And that's why I chose the hip roof, because it does look the same in any direction you cut it in. It only looks different here in the ridge. But usually you would cut this house in its cross section and show it in that direction too. And I do have a cross section. And you see what's happening here is in Revit, it actually shows you the real cut section. But if I was drawing this by hand, I would normally imagine cutting this roof right down the middle where we'd actually see the ridge board.
But we don't really have to do that part of the drawing.
No, you're only showing me what's going on right here, right?
Yeah.
So you're pretending we're just looking at this and seeing how that's configured. Now, if you decide to have your ceiling joist frame in the other direction, that's fine. Then your section that you're taking, then instead of being in this wall, would be in that wall instead, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. The section views still can look the same. As all it's doing is indicating which direction or what size ceiling joist you're using. And this is why in the first floor plan, it's important to call out which direction your ceiling joists are being framed in and what size they are. All right, now the way I have my layout here done, I would want to say that my ceiling joists are going in this direction. They're spanning this way, right? So I'd say, all right, these are 2 by 10, let's say, ceiling joists. I have to look it up. And I'd have to look it up based off of, you could use the National Wood Council span calculator. We'd be looking up a ceiling joist span, and I'd have to look it up based off of what that dimension was right there. So if I look at this dimension from the center of this wall to the edge of this wall here, I have to span 15 feet, 10 3/4. I'd call that 16 feet. So these ceiling joists, as soon as I size them to be able to span on this side, the 16 feet, then they're certainly going to be the right size for that side too, right? Now, what if one of you decides, I'm going to put my walls here and I'm going to put my bedroom back here, and this is all going to be my open space. Well, you may decide to span your ceilings in the opposite direction then. And if that's the case, then you're going to say, my ceiling's going this way. So you'd show the direction the ceiling joists are going in, and you'd indicate their size. And let's say if we have a wall here, and this was the bedroom area back here, and this was all open to the kitchen, then our distance that we're spanning would be from this wall here to the front wall at about 17 feet, 10 inches. So I might need to size up those joists. Is that making sense to people? So the only thing you need to call out here is you need to show me which direction your ceiling joists are going to be going in, and it's going to be based off of how you configure your floor plan. So don't worry about the ceiling joists for now. We can always figure that out after. You can actually send me your floor plan and say, hey, Meredith, how would I put in the ceiling joists here? I don't know where they would span from or to because of the crazy thing that I've done. And that's okay. But what I want you to think about right now, just solve the problem of creating these spaces. And then once you've created the spaces, then think about, all right, now what's going on top of these walls, my ceilings? All right, how far do my ceilings have to span without being supported? And find that longest span and then calculate. You can go to the ceiling calculator and come up with that ceiling joist size, okay? All right, let me stop sharing for now and see where people are at. So this is the lecture this week. I had a lot of grading to do for another class, so I didn't get a chance to pre-record my lecture for the kitchen and baths. And so I figured I would deliver it today. So what you want to do with that information is take the floor plan from the, let me share again, I guess. You just want to take just that floor plan. And I've got the PDF versions of that floor plan here, linked to your lesson plan. If you're going to do it by hand, you can draw it at 1/4 inch equals a foot and just lay out those spaces. And don't, whoops, wrong class. Don't make this harder than it is. I've had people in the past go, can we add a loft? Can we do this? Can we do that? Like, don't do that. Just take the list of spaces that I want you to add to the plans and just add those. And now I can't remember where I put the final projects. I think that they're in the on the portal page. Or I added links to them. I don't remember where I put them.
Meredith, did we
Yep.
not have an assignment this week, or is this kind of just working on the?
No,
on the
your
project?
assignment is to lay out the floor plan, and then that once you've got the floor plan laid out, then you're going to know where your windows and doors are going to go, right? You're going to end up moving those a little bit into the locations you need them to be in, and then you're going to be able to add those window and door elevations to your elevations, and you'll have your wall section that goes through the roof, including the roof cornice detail. You're going to be able to tag your windows and doors and create your window and door schedule. So the rest of this semester, I think I have one more lecture, and it's about windows and doors, just to clarify, like, how do you find information about windows and doors and their rough openings, how to look up stuff using the manufacturer specifications, why would I use one door over another in a certain situation, or why would I use one window over another? So those are the other things that I'm going to provide you with information on. But the rest of the semester is now kind of wrapping up these drawings and finishing them. So Thursday, I'd be happy to, host the video, do another Zoom video with anybody who wants to share anything with me on that day, and I can see where your progress is and what you've got. And you can complete this assignment whenever. So once you've completed everything that I have on the list from the lesson plan, then submit it to me as soon as you can, because I can give you feedback, and if there's anything I need you to add or fix, you have a chance to do that. So it is okay to submit things chunks at a time as well.
Meredith, for me working with Revit, would you want me to like make PDFs to send you, or are you wanting like just the Revit file for like checking in, or just even final?
Well, if you want me to take a look at things where I'm just going to be checking on it, Josh, the Revit file is the most convenient. But at the end, I would like you to generate PDFs of the finished sheets, because that's how everybody else is submitting it. I don't want to have to, in other words, go into a CAD file and have to print things out. I'd like a PDF of the sheets that are completed. So same thing with Revit, but if you say, hey, can you just take a look at this layout? I'm not submitting it yet, but I just want your feedback. Then you can just give me the Revit file for that.
And your final PDF is going to be just type like letter size paper, correct? Or do you want it? Can it be 11 by 17 or? You can,
because you're giving it to me electronically, Josh, and it's already in electronic format. You can do any sheet size you want.
Okay.
But the folks that are doing this by hand, I've made it 8.5 by 11 to make it convenient for you all, so that you don't have to get funky sheet sizes. And you can maybe scan them a lot more easily, or just work with them a lot more easily as being regular A-size sheets of paper. If you're in AutoCAD, again, because it's electronic format, you can do any sheet size you want, because you're going to be giving me a PDF version of that sheet size, so the sheet size doesn't matter. But it does with people who are doing it by hand, as far as what they have access to at home. Okay?
Hey Meredith, did you
Yeah.
say that there was a template for the floor plan of the Josephine somewhere? Or are we creating that ourselves?
Well, I have one that is a suggested layout that would work, but it would need to be tweaked a little bit, because we didn't, the stairs didn't come out exactly the same way. But if you wanted to work from that, you can certainly do that. I'll make sure I put it in the class portal and have it available there.
Oh, I just didn't know if there was like a base plan of like the exterior walls already done, or if we were creating that ourselves.
Oh, no. I have it. Yeah, you have all of that. So the exterior walls and the elevations have already been done for you. There's, so if you use the links on the lesson plan, you can get to those.
Okay, they're on the lesson plan?
Yeah, do you still have an electronic version of the lesson plan?
Yeah, I do. I can pull it up.
Okay, so in there is where I provided all the links to, and now I can't remember where I put it all, is where I provided all the links to the, maybe is it spring lectures? Anyway, so I provided it in there, and it has all the PDFs and stuff like that. Like, so you can either download the PDFs and print it, or you can grab the CAD files. Are you going to be doing yours in CAD, Nick?
I am, yeah. I think I just found it. I hadn't scrolled down that far.
Yep, yeah. So I know it's in that link, and now I can't remember exactly where I put it, but the link should send you right where it is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I found it under when it pulls up in Google Drive, it says final project and then CAD, because that's what I clicked on. But
yeah, did I put it in here? Final project here? Maybe. Oh, yep, that's where I put it. That was smart of me. I put it in final project. Okay, I found it too. I realize I'm not sharing with you guys anymore, but there it is. So anybody needing this, if you can see now, we're in the Google Drive 165 folder under assignments and handouts final project. This is where all the CAD files are. This is where all the PDFs are, and this is the Revit file. So you don't have to start from scratch with this, Nick. You just want this first floor and the elevations. You want all of those things, because once you lay out your first floor, you're going to go the way I've set up the elevations. I took out all the windows and doors. So you're going to be able to add the windows and doors to this floor plan, and then you'll have to project the windows and doors to the elevations.
awesome. That is a relief. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I really made a lot of changes as far as canning this a little bit and making it so you guys still have some work that you're doing to it, so you understand how it all comes together. And this is, I actually think it's really a lot more realistic for working in an office too. You very rarely are starting from scratch. Usually if it's a new project, you're working on it with a bunch of other people and there's already some drawings started that you have to work with, right? Or they'll say, all right, we're starting a new project, but you're not going to start from scratch. We want you to go to this project we did it finished up 2 months ago and start with that because it's really similar to what we're going to do with this project. So it's actually good practice for you guys to understand the drawing management and finding the file and making sure that you start from that file and using the stuff that's already built into that file as far as layers and blocks and whatnot goes. So you know, it's very similar to what you would do in a office environment. So that's it.
Cool, thanks.
Yep. All right, does anybody need anything else? And I'm planning on seeing you guys all Thursday, so I'd love to see where you get with the plans for then. Oh, and one other thing I want to say, how should you start these plans? Should you A, sit at your computer and hack away at it until it gets laid out, or B, print out the PDF and sketch on that until you come up with a layout that looks great, or C, wait to the last minute and then not get it done? So which, B, exactly. Sit down, print it out, do it by hand first, and just kind of like be loosey-goosey and don't worry about scale at first. Get somewhat scale right, and then come up with something you think might work, and then sit down at the computer and then lay it out more precisely. If you try to sit down at the computer and do it all at once, you will stifle your creativity as far as how to use that space and lay it out. There's literally 5 or 6 different ways to approach these layouts. I mean, the space is only 30 feet by 28 feet, so it's limited, but there's 4 different places you could put the kitchen. There's 6 different places you could put the bathroom. You know, there's 6 different places you could put the bedroom. So you want to look at it from all those different angles on paper first. And then once you come up with something you like, then go forward with it. Okay, and print out several copies for those of you who are doing it by hand. And then, just sketch right on it. You don't like that sketch, put it aside, start sketching on a new one. Okay, and then you'll finally come up with something that you like. All right, I went a little past my usual time today. Sorry about that. You guys owe me.
Got it.
So if you don't need anything else, because I got to prepare for my next Zoom meeting at 4 o'clock. If you don't need anything else, we can sign off now. And I will see you all Thursday. And feel free to email me with questions or anything you want me to look at before Thursday so that I can be prepared with my comments or give you feedback for that day too. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. And oh, Scylla, with your questions, did I answer all your questions all right with your email you gave me? Did you have anything else you wanted to go on?
Not as of getting your answers.
Okay. All right. All right, good.
But I'll let you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Don't hesitate. All right. I'm going to sign off then. It's great to talk with you all. Oh, Tori, are you able to talk? Do you have a microphone that's working? Nope. Sorry. Okay. Just wanted to check in with you. I know that you've had a rough couple of weeks, so I wanted to see if you're finding all the resources you need for the class, and when you're planning on checking out some of the videos. Do you know where to find all those videos? Okay. All right. Well, I know you're good about emailing me, so make sure you do if you can't find something or you have a question, okay? Hang in there. All right. I'll talk to you later then. Bye.